A man from London who was a member of the Islamic State group has been found guilty of all charges against him, including hostage-taking and conspiring to murder journalists and aid workers in Syria. Elsheikh was accused of being part of the notorious so-called Beatles cell, nicknamed by their captives due to their English accents. Our North America correspondent Nomia Iqbal has been following the trial in Virginia, and a warning: you may find some images distressing.
It's been nearly a decade since the world saw shocking videos of journalists and aid workers being beheaded in Syria. And now Elsheikh will pay for his crimes. He's been found guilty of being part of a trio who kidnapped and killed many hostages, among them 4 Americans: James Foley, Stephen Sotloff, Peter Kasich and Kayla Mueller. He also conspired in the deaths of Britain's David Haynes and Alan Henning. None of their bodies were ever found. David's brother Mike says he will never forget the moment he heard of his death.
I took my mum's hands and told her son couldn't be hurt anymore. That was truly the worst night of my life.
The families had to relive their nightmare as they gave detailed evidence in court. Kayla Mueller's mother wept on the stand as she read out ransom emails from the jihadists saying they wanted millions for her daughter to be released. Michael Foley said the video of his brother James's execution is burnt into his brain. Former hostages who survived described the gang as sadists who electrocuted, waterboarded and starved them. One said he tried to kill himself to escape. The defence argued this was a case of mistaken identity. They described Elsheikh as a simple IS fighter, but not one of the so-called Beatles, who were always fully masked around hostages. However, prosecutors used Elsheikh's own interviews after he was captured to prove he knew the hostages.
Mohammed asked me to get emails and details about their family contacts, work contacts, anything that's relevant like that, and pass them over to him.
They said it proved he knowingly took part in the hostage-taking, which led to the deaths. Elsheikh is the last man from the so-called Beatles to face a reckoning. Mohammed Emwazi, that some call Jihadi John, was killed by a drone strike in 2015. Alexander Cote was brought to the US with Elsheikh, but pleaded guilty last year. As part of his plea deal, he met some of the families.
Well, I was nervous to go, but Jim would have wanted me to go.
Are you able to forgive?
Well, he didn't ask me to forgive him, but you know, if he does in the future, you know, I must try to forgive him.
The families have been in court every day, supporting each other, while sitting just yards away from the man who played a role in the deaths of their loved ones. This verdict has given them a sense of justice, but it's also allowed America to prove that it can hold international terrorists to account.
Elsheikh will be sentenced at a later date, but as part of a US-UK extradition deal to get him here in the first place, he won't face the death penalty. Nomia Iqbal, BBC News, Virginia.
Well, we can speak to Nomia now from the courthouse in Virginia. And Nomia, give us a sense of what it was like in that courtroom today.
Well, this is a long road to justice for the families, and when the verdict was delivered, the families quietly sobbed and hugged each other. You know, they've been rocks to each other. And I'm joined now by Diane Foley, who is James Foley's mother, and you saw Diane in the report there. Diane, just can you tell me how you felt when that verdict came through?
Just relief and tremendous sense of gratitude that I feel like mercy and justice has prevailed today, that Elsheikh received a very fair trial, legal counsel, protection, all that he needed, all the opposite of what was allotted to our citizens and the British citizens. So this is a big day today. a big day for accountability. We'll never stop hostage taking without accountability and justice.
What was it like reliving it all? Because obviously you gave evidence, you heard evidence about your son.
It was very difficult, and I think it was particularly difficult to hear the other family stories, equally as poignant and horrific to our own. I mean, I lived our story, but to hear what the other families have endured, it's just so heartbreaking, truly.
What lessons do you think can be learned for the US and the UK moving forward? What was interesting, we saw former hostages who had managed to survive giving evidence.
Because their countries chose to negotiate with the captors. And to me, that is the lesson, that if we, Americans and British, choose not to negotiate with captors, our citizens are gone.
The argument has always been, we don't negotiate with terrorists once you start meeting ransom demands, that you legitimize their tactics. But
well, ransom is one. Nobody wants to pay ransom to terrorists. I mean, that is making it too black and white an issue. It is much more of a gray issue. I think we have to be shrewd enough to find ways to interact with any captor and find ways around it, so that we can give them a way to save face and give our people back. But at the same time, obviously, we don't want to support, terrorist activities. That is not what this is about. It's about the willingness to negotiate and engage with captors.
You told me earlier that you have met with Alexander Cote, one of the other members of the so-called ISIS Beatles, and that's part of his plea deal to meet with the families. Would you want to meet with Elsheikh?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on him. If he doesn't want to, I don't care to. Do you know what I mean? But if there's an opening, as there was with Cody, I'm more than happy to. I think Jim would want us to be honest. He would want us to have the courage to face them and to give them the benefit of the doubt and hear their story. Everyone lost in this.
And talking of James, how do you want James to be remembered?
I just want him to be remembered for the brave, committed, compassionate young American he was. And I pray that he can inspire other journalists and young Americans to be people of moral courage. He aspired to be a man of moral courage. So I just pray that our country needs more moral courage, and we need to be able to stand up for the best of what we're founded on.
Thank you so much, Diane.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Diane Foley there, the mother of James Foley, giving her reaction, and we're speaking to other family members as well who are just so relieved that this verdict has come through, that they have finally got a sense of justice for their loved ones. As I mentioned there in the report, their loved ones have never been found, but this has given them some sense of closure moving forward.
Nomia, thank you very much.